Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
What do you do when the thing you spent over a decade building disappears overnight? Not because you failed, because life just took it. Do you fight to rebuild the exact same thing? Or do you let the wreckage show you who you are actually supposed to become? That's what we're digging into here on Authentic Achievements today. And my guest built a business planning over 500 destination weddings across the Caribbean, good enough to land her on TLC's Wedding Island. Then Hurricane Maria took it all in a single night. She didn't rebuild it. She went back to writing. And today she's 5 novels in, living on Jekyll Island with a coonhound named Sherlock, and a story that started long before any of that, as a Wall Street Journal reporter who once ghost wrote for a Real Housewife. Sandy Malone, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so looking forward to this conversation, and I'm so grateful that you've chosen to join us from your vacation, celebrating your wedding anniversary, and we'll get into that later on in the show. But first, could you take me back to that moment? When did you realize the business was actually gone and not just damaged? And what did that feel like real time?
Well, my husband and I, we did more than 500 weddings, as you said, and we're in business for 11 years. And so what we would do is take off the month of September every year. We couldn't do it early in the business, but later on we did. Labor Day weekend is actually our anniversary. We're celebrating it this weekend because we can't do it then. But we had decided after a few years in the business, September was too stressful for planning weddings because brides would call me in a panic every time there was a hint of a storm on the horizon. They were watching the Weather Channel till they could put me in the funny farm. And we said, we don't need to do this in September. We need to celebrate our own anniversary in September. So we got to a point where we could take September off. We would go stateside. We have a condo that we kept in the DC area. We had 6 grandchildren in the DC area. So we go home a lot. And so we said, let's just spend September up north. Then Hurricane Irma hit. And my bestie down there, Yaya, was looking out for our house. And we checked in with her after about a few days after Irma. They had just gotten phone signals, barely. They didn't have power back. And then Hurricane Maria hit them. And the reality sunk in, not for a few days. Because for a few days you think, okay, they're going to fix it. The world's going to be fine. But when a Category 5 wipes out all of Puerto Rico, and Vieques Island, where we were, was 7 miles off the coast, was a little bitty island. When that happens, that little bitty island is the absolute last priority for the government to fix. And so I think within a week of Hurricane Maria hitting, we knew that we wouldn't be reopening. We were hearing rumors the island wouldn't have power back for 10 months, 12 months. It ended up being 17 months before Vieques got power back, and it's still not reliable.
Wow. I mean, just trying to think about the magnitude of that. And I once was on holiday many years ago with my friend, and we were there when a hurricane hit, and we had no idea, and we had no understanding. So we just didn't know what was going to come next. And you felt so much for the people who lived there, the people whose livelihood was there, because all we had was a slightly damaged to live with kind of, how do you rebuild that reality? And so once the dust had settled, Was going back to writing a decision you made, or something that happened because the other option was gone?
Well, the dust didn't settle that fast, because what we did is we got involved in helping with the evacuations.
Yeah.
And we were working from stateside. My husband was a retired police captain, so we had a little bit of experience working with emergencies, and we helped to evacuate a whole lot of people. And and that was being done via private airplanes and jets and things like that once they could land on the runway, because at first you couldn't even land on Vieques Island. But it's this thing where you realize, wait a minute, we're not in the United States. Puerto Rico is part of the United States. And I'm sorry, a lawnmower is behind me. We'll go away in a second. You realize no one's coming to help. I mean, it was one of those situations, truly, where nobody was coming to help. And so what do you do about that? We as residents of the island organized. Those of us who were off island, because September, a lot of people leave, it's so high. Yeah. And we all worked together to try and do the best to help, especially the medically challenged people who were trapped on Vieques Island. Mm-hmm. And then, but it took a couple weeks to sink in that we had to completely start over. We were really lucky, though. And we had another place to go. A lot of the people, they had to go and stay with friends and family stateside. And, when we didn't lose our home either. We lost our business. Our house was just fine. It didn't even get wet inside because our house was concrete. But we got looted repeatedly after the storm. And they're not even stealing things you can use in a hurricane. They stole my pink KitchenAid mixer, for goodness sakes. I mean, you feel so violated. When I got the pictures after the first time the house was looted, it's like, wow, somebody went through every drawer and everything, and they had all the time in the world. It's just, I was so, I don't know. We didn't end up ever moving back to that home because it was 17 months without power. We went back 12 months in to meet the movers, and we were still on generator power when we met the movers. Yeah. So we said we weren't going to go back there to live till we had power. It doesn't make sense. We had a condo in DC that had electricity. I mean, the logic. So that's what we did. And then it took a week or two to sink in, and then it was time to figure out how to rebuild. I mean, I adopted Sherlock that week. We said, no, we'd lost our dog a couple years before, and we said we weren't going to get another dog while we were still going back and forth between the Puerto Rico and DC. It's not fair to the pet. Traveling is not easy. And they were making it harder and harder to travel with a dog that wasn't a purse-sized dog. Yeah. And when I realized we weren't going to be able to go back, I adopted Sherlock.
Oh,
my husband thought I'd lost my mind. It's okay.
It's funny though, isn't it? Sometimes when life throws these things at us, we kind of just have to trust that it's for the right reason, that something good will come from it, even if you can't see it in that moment. And so I love that. Obviously, your business was weddings and wedding planning, and obviously you're currently celebrating early your own wedding anniversary because you've got your grandson's wedding coming up. So weddings plays a big theme, and as I understand it, that's also the key part of your series of books, isn't it?
Well, okay, so when I realized we couldn't go back, I went back to writing full time. I actually became editor of Blue Lives Matter and the Police Tribune, which was the largest law enforcement publication, I think, in the world at that time. And so I went back to news reporting and editing, what I had learned in college. And I'd been writing all along. I'd just been writing for wedding publications and things like that. And when I did that, I went back to writing. I realized, my mother was wrong when she told me that writing was a career I wouldn't always be able to go back to, because it's something you can very much go back to. And the ideas I'd had so many fiction stories in my head for so many years, but I grew up being told I couldn't write fiction. My mom always said you have to have a job and a degree that you can go back to. And in her mind, her daughter's creative writing wasn't going to be a job. So I got my degree in journalism because it gave me an excuse to write. And I know I worked my way around it. She threw out every college catalog for a journalism school that arrived. For months, we warred on this. My mother wanted me to be a nurse or a doctor or a lawyer, something I could go back to. And so it was kind of neat to be like, look what I went back to. So we moved to Jekyll Island, Georgia, which is a little bitty island just north of the Florida-Georgia line. We moved here a few years ago. And when we moved, I said, at this point, I've got to make a decision because I've ghostwritten for other reality TV stars. I have written nonfiction, how to plan your wedding type books. Am I going to do it? Am I going to take the jump? And I thought, okay, there's no better time in the world to do it. And when I started writing, it just came. The stories I had outlined and said, I'm not allowed to write until we get unpacked when we moved to Jekyll Island. And then I'm still not fully unpacked, but I did start writing and we've got 5 books now. And my series is not autobiographical, okay? I want to be clear. But it is based on all the crazy I saw planning weddings for 11 years in the Caribbean. My main character, Tally, is a 29-year-old wedding planner who loses her job in the Caribbean because of a hurricane. And so what she does is she goes home to Jekyll Island where she grew up. And she thinks she's going to spend her summer, her recovery months, sitting on the couch, tweaking her resume, and consuming as much ice cream as possible. And her aunt comes home and says, Tally, get off your fanny. There is no wedding planner on the island right now. Start a company. So she does. She goes out and launches a company, and then she starts reconnecting with childhood friends. Some of her friends have gone into the wedding business in the area. But more interestingly, the little boy next door that she grew up with, he is a smoking hot state trooper now. And there is a bit of a connection there, but it starts, everything's going great. And she picks up a big client. And, for a little new company, getting a local name to let you book their wedding is a big deal. Yeah. And everything's going great. And she's all excited. And then things start going sideways. Flowers disappear. Vendors aren't returning calls and don't want to work with her. Things don't make sense. And everything that's going sideways, she can't figure it out because there's somebody who has a grudge that doesn't want her to be in business there and doesn't want her to stay on Jekyll. She has no idea there's been a 10-year grudge. Now, spoiler alert, there's 5 books in the series. She survives book 1.
I love it.
But all the weddings, all the crazy in the first 5 books, or in the my first 5 books, all of the crazy really happened. I have one bride who was so awful. She's 4 brides in my book because she wasn't believable as one bride.
So I love that. so much of a bridezilla, she actually had to be split into 4.
She was so awful. She goes down in history. I still talk to the girls who worked for me and the interns I had at the time. Everybody still remembers just like, But it's so funny because I really don't want to hurt any feelings when I write these books. This isn't about naming and shaming brides with bad taste or just bad behavior. It's not about that. It's about what's really funny, which is why it's written so that nobody should recognize themselves in something that they would feel is unkind.
Yeah.
But I figured, she's got to recognize some of this stuff, right? No, she sent me flowers. Like, lovely job on the books. And all I could think to myself was, honey, more than 500 weddings. I have only had one bride ever ask me at midnight. She called and said, can you drive across the island to put aloe on my sunburn? I did it because not doing something like that can result in a nasty wedding wire review. My wedding planner didn't really care about me. And you don't want that after you've spent a year and a half planning somebody's wedding. You need that 5-star review because that's how you pick up new clients. You don't need somebody feeling petty and unloved because you wouldn't rub aloe on them. Now, the normal world, when this is explained, would be like, she bonkers. But in the moment, you got to do what you got to do. She didn't recognize herself.
She might recognize herself if she's listening to this and knows.
Oh my God. You know
Aloe.
what?
I
I think she'd have to be a little more self-aware.
I think this is sometimes what happens, isn't it? We go through life, and I used to joke. I spent many years as a consultant in financial services, and said I would write a book when I finished about confessions of a contractor, because you couldn't make it up. I just couldn't. Make it up.
I have this joke that I want to write like confessions of a wedding planner, because I'm going to start. The opening line is going to be like, "What in God's name ever made a bride think that there's any confidentiality agreement?" There isn't one. It's not in my contract. I mean, I had clients I had a governor's granddaughter, things like that, where they sent me an NDA.
Yeah, of course.
Fine. They're not in the book. Or they are, and they'll never see the recognize themselves. But there is no confidentiality agreement. We are not attorneys. We are not doctors. Even though you treat us like a therapist, we do not have a confidentiality agreement.
I love that. I started my career as a hairdresser. And people knew anything. I mean, sometimes I'd be there going, "Oh, okay, too much information."
No, and you, honey, I'm touching your head while you're telling me this.
Or like, you've told me that, and I'm actually going to have to cut your husband's hair later and try and forget this. Because we're in a small village, so you'd kind of know everybody. And it's funny, isn't it, that kind of like, I mean, it's lovely that people trust you with kind of what's going on in their world, but then sometimes there is that element of, okay, oh, you're telling me that. Thank you.
They tell you things, and then you're supposed to pretend you don't know them. And we had this wedding. My staff would nickname wedding weekends. And we had a client that the wedding weekend became, and it was actually a sad story, but handled so bizarrely that it became funny. So we call this wedding weekend at Bernie's because right. So the destination weddings, usually the bride and groom come in on Wednesday or Thursday. Rehearsal, dinner events are Friday. Wedding is Saturday. I mean, it can shift, but that was what this couple was doing. And they had come into San Juan. You have to take a puddle jumper flight to Vieques Island. They had come into San Juan with their friends on Wednesday before their Saturday wedding, because they wanted to do like the bachelorette thing in San Juan. It's great. We don't have nightclubs on Vieques. And so I knew they were in Puerto Rico and arriving on Vieques the next morning. And my phone rang very, very early. And I saw it was the groom, and I answered, "What's going on? Hey, are you guys excited to come over?" Okay. This is in the category of things you cannot make up. The bride's father was leaving for the airport the night before to come to Puerto Rico for the wedding. And he went down to the end of the driveway to either bring in a trash can or put a trash can out. He got hit by the trash truck and killed.
No.
True story. And so it happened that Wednesday evening before the wedding. And so at some point during the night, the bride and groom got the call about it. So here's where, I mean, something terribly tragic then just got bizarre. The bride and groom decided they were going to go forward with the wedding. Her parents were divorced, rather, I believe, acrimoniously from what I observed. Mom wasn't very upset. Dad had been run over by a trash truck. And so her mother's family was all still coming to the island, but her father's family wasn't coming. Like, everybody on that side was like, "We're not coming." So we immediately lost, I don't know, say 25 to 35 wedding guests, but they weren't coming. And suddenly we had a whole wedding that needed to be changed. Yeah. There's not going to be a daddy-daughter dance. Daddy's not going to be making the first toast. He's not going to be walking the bride down the aisle. But that was just sad. What was strange was when the groom called and told me all this, I said, okay, my first reaction was, I can start calling vendors. Let me see who will transfer your deposits to another date. What can we do? He said, no, we're going to get married. We're going to pretend this didn't happen.
Okay.
How are we going to do that?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. He says, don't mention it to her. The bride's name, I shall keep to myself. We'll call her Sue. Do not mention it to Sue. She's just going to pretend it didn't happen. Okay, that's why we call it Weekend at Bernie's. Nobody was dragging her dead father around by the arm, but it felt like there was a dead guy at every event.
Yeah, of course.
And I mean, what we had to run around telling the staff, because their rehearsal dinner was a big beach party, because the night before the wedding, they all went out on a bioluminescent bay tour. So it's like an afternoon rehearsal thing and then this bay tour. And every single vendor had to be told, the bride's father just died. Don't ask for the bride's father. Don't mention the bride's father. But also do not give condolences. He's not dead, remember? We're pretending he's not dead. No condolences. So the DJ had to be warned about all this, and there was a separate beach DJ from the wedding reception, different kinds of events. And they had to be told, like, not just that, but like, don't play any songs related to family. Like, no Sister Sledge, we are family. All this stuff. Because, anyway, it was just so weird. And we made it through the weekend. It was actually very sad. Her father's family decided to have the funeral the Monday after her wedding. They could have waited a few days. And the bride and groom had to skip their honeymoon, fly out first thing Sunday morning to make it back. I'm not even sure she made it back for the viewing. It was really just an example of heartless family behavior at home. Really kind of gross, but it was so weird because we had to pretend nothing had happened. And it just, anyway, afterwards, the way that our team, our mental health way of handling bizarre weddings is we make t-shirts. And we had a t-shirt that said, I survived the Weekend at Bernie's wedding. And I still have that t-shirt.
I love it. I think so. I mean, what a tragic story. And that poor couple.
It is, but weird. Absolutely tragic. I'm not trying to take away.
Yeah. But then you kind of look at it, and I love that, like, sometimes, and how we deal with our own emotional well-being when these things come through. And and I have a friend who said to me once, I can't decide if you're incredibly strong or incredibly stupid. And I was like, probably both in equal parts. Because she was like, you just get up and keep going. And I was like, well, no, I don't. I choose to look at the things that I can do something with. I choose to go, I don't know how to deal with that. That's too big. But I can do this one thing, and I now cling to it like it's the life raft in the messy seas of my mind until I can work out what to do with the other thing. Is that something that you found you do through life when it throws these plot twists at you?
Well, I have this belief that things usually work out for good people. I don't know if non-good people have this experience, but when things are scary, you got to look for the light. It's going to be okay in the morning, kind of thing. Yeah. So for me, when the hurricane hit, it was out of nowhere. But I had been trying to figure out in the past couple of years how I was going to eventually transition back to stateside. We were getting older. Healthcare stinks in Puerto Rico. Yeah. We had good insurance. There were reasons for us to be back stateside. But I was booked 2 years out. I had brides. When Hurricane Maria hit in 2017, I had to cancel 2 years of weddings. I cried with every single bride and groom. It was awful. But sometimes it's a God shuts a door and opens a window kind of moment, because I wasn't sure how I was going to transition out of wedding planning, because my business model works so that I made 50% upfront and 50% of my fee 30 days prior to the wedding date. But the way that worked, in order to stay on an even keel, I had to keep booking weddings.
Yeah, of course.
So I was booked 2 years out, and I kept booking, and there was no end in sight. And you don't want to abandon brides and grooms. And after the TV show aired, the brides were really hiring me. They weren't hiring the company. So if I had sold it to somebody else, I would have had a lot of probably angry and disappointed clients. I couldn't do that. And so lo and behold, along came a hurricane.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it, how life does these things for us. Everything, I do believe everything that happens to us is happening for us, not to us. And we might not always see that. I say to my little girl all the time, everything in life is a lesson, a blessing, or both. So in the moments where you don't feel blessed, look for the lesson, because that's where the blessing is hiding. Right? So just look a little harder. It will come, because I think, and it strikes me that your story has followed a similar piece. Life only really makes sense in the rear view mirror. It's only when you've gone through it and you look back, you go, oh, right. So that's why that happened, or that's why that had to come, or that's what this was redirecting me to do. But that can be really hard to do in the moment, can't it?
Well, it's funny because in weddings and planning events, when we first started out, we would post-mortem every event after the weekend. What did we do right? What could we do better? How can we work smarter, not harder? And you analyze these things and how you can fix them, make them better, like you said. But when something happens to completely pull the rug out from under you, which is like what happened with the storm. I mean, my God, we had so many hurricane threats. And we had boarded up the house. We had gone to the hurricane parties. We'd done all the things. But when it actually hits, there's no immediate bounce back. You have to look for sort of the light through the darkness and figure out where it's going to come from. It's scary at first.
Yeah. I can imagine. I mean, I know from my own experience when we were there, and you felt a bit like an observer because it wasn't your life. You were just there on holiday. We talked about looting, and I remember sitting after we'd been told the hurricane was coming and there was no way off the island, and we were watching the TV, and they said, you need to know that they're expecting looting, so the police have been told to shoot first and ask questions later. And we were like, oh my goodness, that's not something. I'm English. we don't really comprehend that. But then equally, that we were kind of listening to some of those talk shows that were there, and I remember this one particular one. Somebody phoned in to say, "Can I take my goat to the shelter?" And the person that phoned in afterwards said, "If they take their goat, are we allowed to eat it?" My goodness, it was just fascinating to kind of watch these things as they played out, and you really couldn't have made up kind of what happened in those couple of days while we were in a coal bunker underneath a hotel with water gushing and a guy with a portable range driving around going, "What do you want on your omelette?" This is just so surreal. But the dawning realization that we were there for that period, and we were able to then go home and kind of get on with our world. Whereas for those people still there, for a lot of them, they didn't even know if their family was safe. And yet they were still trying to help out, still trying to be there for others. And I kind of can't begin to imagine what that must be like for the people who are trying to get through that element, knowing that this is their actual whole life. This isn't just a vacation that's been tripped up slightly.
Yeah. I think it was also a double whammy on Vieques, Puerto Rico, because the last time a really bad hurricane hit them was Hurricane Hugo in 1989. They had Hurricane George in 1999, I believe it was. Yeah. But it was nothing like Hugo, which had flattened a lot of houses. And but at that time, the U.S. Navy actually had possession of 2/3 of Vieques Island. They stored ammunition for the North Atlantic Fleet in bunkers on one end, and they practiced bombing on the far other end. But in 2003, the U.S. Navy pulled out, or Puerto Rico got upset. The Navy accidentally blew up a civilian security guard. I was lobbying. That's how I found Vieques, because the government of Puerto Rico was a client at the time, and they said, "Who thinks the media would be interested in this?" And I know reporters who'd be interested in this. And then it turned out it wasn't even the U.S. military. They'd been renting out the island to foreign nations to practice bombing. And it was an Italian pilot who on his virgin bombing run, who accidentally blew up the security guard. Now, the security guard was not in the bomb shelter at the observation post. He was standing on top of the building, smoking a cigarette, watching the bomb. Everybody who was in the observation post was fine. There were, I think, some stitches and what have you, but those people were fine. This guy was killed because he was not where he was supposed to be. But it ended up being the impetus for the government of Puerto Rico to say, fuera las marinas, get rid of the Navy. It wasn't just no more bombing. It was get rid of the Navy. And so when Hurricane Maria hit in 2017, the Navy wasn't there. And in 1989, it was. When Hurricane Hugo destroyed Vieques, the U.S. Navy did 90% of the cleanup work. Wow. And then in 2017, when Hurricane Maria hit, it hit all of Puerto Rico. And Vieques and Culebra, its sister island, the little ones off the tip, they were everybody's last priority because San Juan didn't have power and water. The mountains didn't have power and water. And I don't know if they do this in the UK, but if you have a bad storm, here in the States, other states send electrical crews and the power crew guys that know how to fix it. And they sent thousands of electric guys down from stateside, got to Puerto Rico, and most of them had never even seen an electrical grid, like the outdated Puerto Rico grid. Like, you can't get the parts to fix it.
Wow.
So everything about it was just, it got weirder and weirder and more difficult. There, all the power comes 7 miles under the ocean on a cable that the Navy laid in 1950. Power's out, and they're saying, well, the cable got torn. Then it was the reports where the cable had been cut and somebody had stolen the copper out of it.
I was going to say, no, you can't believe it, but actually you can, can't you? Because these things, it's.
Okay, and then this I used in the book, but this was a true story. I talked to one of my girlfriends, and she said, yeah, the looting's so bad that, they're coming in and robbing people in their beds in the middle of the night. And she told us about a friend where they came in and they were like, give me all your cash and your weed. Desperate times call for desperate measures.
Yeah, I mean, it fascinates you, doesn't it, what that human nature and kind of like, what happens. I know from my own little experience, there was some moments that were just comedy where you were like, really, we're going there now? we'll just leave that where it is. But I think it is that, I guess it's how we look at things, isn't it? It's like when you kind of look at, I think it was Warren Buffett that said that every time something goes wrong, you have to immediately find 3 things that you're grateful for. So, as an example, my car broke down. Aren't I lucky that I've got a car? Aren't I lucky that I'm in road services so someone can come and collect me? Aren't I lucky that it's a dry day and I'm not going to get wet or cold? Because it changes how we view things and allows us to start to look at, I guess, steps we can take, because that can be the problem, can't it? When everything all feels overwhelming, it can be hard to work out what step, even if it's a tiny step, what step can we take to make a difference?
I didn't know what I was going to do when I couldn't even process. Initially we thought, okay, when the power comes, we're not going back till the power comes back. We didn't know it was going to be 17 months. And it was about 2 weeks before I was hearing for real, we're not going back. We're going to have to cancel these weddings. This isn't going to work. And I wasn't even job hunting yet. I hadn't gone far enough in the processing. I still had a job. I still had 2 years of weddings to cancel and try to get deposits back, things like that for brides. and I saw an ad that Blue Lives Matter was what it was at the time. It became the Police Tribune. But Blue Lives Matter was looking for an editor. My husband was a police captain. I'm a cop wife. Cop wives, we think we know everything. But I had a cop Wikipedia on the couch. So if I got stuck, I knew who to ask.
Yes.
And that job, it was a Facebook ad. I mean, I wasn't looking for a job. It was a publication I read. And I saw it and I thought, okay, I'm going to apply. It's why not? And it was a God shuts a door and opens a window, because I was only in a funk for a couple of days because I didn't lose my house.
Yeah.
I lost my business, but I had another house to live in, and my husband was safe, and our kids and family, everybody's safe. And there was no reason to be so dark about it. It was an opportunity. The clouds had to clear enough for me to see the opportunity.
I love that. I think sometimes it does, doesn't it? We just have to take a breath and go, okay, I can't see these bits when things have gone hideously wrong in my world, which has happened a few times. Yeah, I kind of take a breath and go, okay, I can't see the way out, so I'm just going to trust, and the way out will come. And I love that that's kind of driven you to captivating all that you've learned through those 500 and beyond weddings, and actually harnessing it back to your true passion, which was to be a creative writer, to kind of complete your circle, even if your mum didn't want you to. That was actually,
she was very proud of me.
I bet she was. And these things, our parents often, they're doing it out of love because they've got a fear, what if it's not? And so when you get there, the pride has its own fulfillment, doesn't it? That is, oh my goodness, yeah, you were there. So what next for you?
Well, I have a couple exciting projects going on. In the vein of the Escape to Jekyll Island and the Gem of the Golden Isle series, I am in the process of writing a crossover series called Under the Oaks that takes place on our sister island, I think we would call it. I don't know. We're that friendly, we're competitive, but on St. Simon's Island next door, because some of our favorite characters are from Gem of the Golden Isle series are going to appear in that. It's a crossover. And I'm hoping the first book when that one is going to be out by the end of summer. No promises. But I do have another exciting book. It's a standalone novel, very different from these series, and it is going to be coming out this fall. And it is called Thicker Than Blood. It is it's a story about a patriarchal society family where money and influence is far more important than anything else. And the story's told by 3 generations of women in the family that survived that. And 2 of them end up facing Alzheimer's. It's fiction. It's a fiction book. But I lost my own mom last November, and she had Alzheimer's. And I think that's something that a lot of us are dealing with. Yeah. It's more and more common. And it touches a lot of lives. And so I used this book to share, to some extent, my journey with this. I lost my mom and my grandmother and my great aunt to Alzheimer's. And what it's like to be the 4th generation in a row. Yeah. Or something like that. So
I'm sorry, but so looking forward to the book, and you will have to come back and share more with us on that book, because I'm conscious that we're sadly out of time. So in the interim, so thank you for coming and sharing your wisdom, your wit, and your fabulous stories with us here on the show. And people want to get in touch, they can kind of find you on all of the links in the show notes below, and read your fabulous books, which just sound like so much fun. And I love that they've got such reality within them. So Sandy, thank you so very much for joining us, and I hope you will come and join us again.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful, and I'm going to go back to enjoying my anniversary at the Homestead Resort.
Fabulous. Please do enjoy your anniversary and enjoy your grandson's wedding when that comes later on.
It's going to be amazing. We're excited.
I'm excited for you. And for everybody listening and watching, I hope you've enjoyed today's show as much as I have. And until next time, take care.
Every day, we wake up knowing what we should do. We know we should take better care of ourselves. We know we should have the difficult conversation. We know we should stop making excuses. We know we should invest in our future. We also know we should take the first step. So why don't we? It's not because we aren't smart enough. It's not because we don't have enough information. And it's certainly not because we don't care. We live in a world overflowing with knowledge. Books, podcasts, videos, courses, experts, even artificial intelligence. We have more access to information than any generation before us. Yet so many of us are still waiting for the right time, waiting to feel ready, waiting until tomorrow. But tomorrow becomes next week becomes next year, and before you know it, another opportunity has passed us by. The truth is, knowing has never been the finish line. It's only the starting line. Our lives don't change because we know more. Our businesses don't grow because we know more. Our relationships don't improve because we know more. And our health doesn't transform because we know more. Everything changes when we act. When we choose courage over comfort, progress over perfection, action over intention. The question isn't, what else do we need to know? The question is, what are we going to do with what we already know? Stop. Why Knowing Isn't Enough by Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Because knowing opens the door. Action changes your life. Available September 2026.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA-Global-TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.